Greetings, everyone. Hope all of you are having an absolutely fantastic day. We are back for the first time with Ruined King. This is a game that many of you mentioned to me last year, and I'll be honest, I disregarded it for the most part. Specifically because I have no interest in playing League of Legends. I was definitely at one time that guy who was addicted to playing MMOs and drooling in front of the keyboard late at night, letting things slip. And I was like, you know what? Leave this, never come back to it. And especially I feel that way having a wife and a kid. So it made me ignore everything that was League of Legends related. But it's a new year. I decided I want to definitely start playing some different types of games. So I went on ahead and gave Ruined King a try. And wow, I am so glad that I did. I love this game so far. I'm still early in the game. I only have 3 of the party members that you can pick up. I'm still kind of in that first city area, but already this game is checking off a lot of really nice boxes for me that I did not expect to get from it. So let's go ahead and go into it. First and foremost, I love the way the game looks. I think the color palette is fantastic. Everything on the screen just pops, and it allows everybody you meet to have a really distinctive look to them and an engaging look. And oftentimes the way they look is representative of the background that they come from, especially when it comes to your party members. I love that attention to detail. I think they did a fantastic job with the graphics in this game, and it makes me really excited to go to some of the other different places to see how they are going to vary from the area that I'm in right now. But what's really surprised me about this game that I did not expect at all is how much it takes its time. I figured this would be the type of game where it throws you right into a bunch of combat, gives you a little bit of story, and then it's all about powers and mechanics and just fighting all the time. That is not the case at all. Each party member that I've gotten access to, they let you use specifically that person for a while, figure out some things regarding their background and what's going on with them. There's really a lot of time put into character development and making you feel empathy for these characters that you're playing as, which is something I definitely did not expect and I really appreciate. The voice acting so far has been very solid, giving all the characters that I meet a very distinctive personality, and it just adds another layer to the character development that it's obvious they really wanted to emphasize with this game. I'm also a big fan of the combat system. I feel like it's simple, yet it's got a lot of deep layers to it at the same time, which to me is always great. So of course, you have the standard roles that party members can play, such as a tank or DPS or healer, things of that nature. But what the game adds to this is the lane system. So basically, you have a fast, balanced, and power lane. And where you are within those lanes can determine multiple things regarding your powers. Basically, you can pick up new abilities that'll allow those powers to do additional things based upon what lane you're using them in. Also, a lot of times enemies will have debuffs or buffs for themselves that can only be taken off if you use powers in specific lanes. So because of this system, the combat is not mindless. You've got to be really careful to strip off buffs on your enemies or take off the debuffs that they might place onto your party members, because if you don't, these fights will become significantly harder than they have to be. Even fights against scrubs that you should be mopping up easily can all of a sudden become slogs that take a bunch of your health if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. I think that's absolutely fantastic. It makes combat feel a lot more valuable in the game. My understanding is this kind of fades away over time. So again, I'm still in the first few hours, but thus far, absolutely loving it. I also get a great feeling of progression in this game. The game actually provides you multiple ways in order to improve your characters, from actually leveling up and being able to pick new talents to, of course, you get new equipment. There's also a rune system that'll allow you to give specific passive buffs onto your character, and each party member has different abilities and skills that you have the option of managing and figuring out. So there's just a fantastic feeling of slowly but surely I'm getting more powerful. I'm sinking deeper into the role that I've chosen, or I'm getting better and better at making this particular party member a jack of all trades. I feel like it's done really well, and that it's easy for there to be a lot of versatility on the builds for each party member. With all that in mind, there are a couple of things that I wasn't as big a fan of. I personally do not like it when enemies revive after I kill them. And that is definitely the case throughout Ruined King. Basically, if you take a rest, or if you leave the entire area. So each area is broken up into different sections. So you could visit all the different sections as freely as you like. But if you leave the entire area and then you come back, all the enemies will be back again. And for me, it breaks that feeling of, hey, I've been here, I've changed the world, things are different because of me. It gives me a very MMO feel. And to be clear, that's the only way in which Ruined King gives me an MMO feel. I feel like they've done a fantastic job of making this game enjoyable for people who have no interest whatsoever in an MMO. But to go to a particular area, take a rest, and then all of a sudden the enemies are all back, it almost makes you feel like you haven't done anything there. Now, of course, all the chests that you've opened will still be cleared. If you went up against major boss characters, I believe they stay dead as well. So it's only regular enemies that come back. And looks like some players farm them for supplies to be able to enchant your weapons. I'm just not a fan of it. I prefer that if you're going to have an enchantment system, it should be set up so that I can go through the entire area once, do all the quests. I needed to complete everything. But once I've done that, then I should have everything I need for that particular area and then be able to move on. Putting me in a position where you have mechanics that require me to basically farm specific areas over and over again is not how I personally like my single player RPGs to be set up. I feel like that's really a staple of MMO games. Also, I strongly dislike mini games that I feel like don't fit at all with what I'm doing and have very little purpose in the game world other than to just give me another way to waste time. And that's how I feel most of the time with fishing. Ruined King has a fishing mechanic. Apparently you can get these fish and then turn them in for black marks, and then these black marks can be used to buy something. I've gotten a bunch of fish, but it never lets me actually turn it in yet, so I'm not sure yet what I'm doing wrong. But I can already tell you, I don't like this mechanic, especially considering the tone and nature of the game. It just doesn't make sense to me that I'm standing around for eons trying to get all the fish out of a particular pool. Like, don't get me wrong, I like mini games when I feel like they fit in the actual world. Like with Witcher and Gwent, it's clear you're not going to be able to finish your task anytime soon. It might take weeks for you to be able to find Ciri. So it makes sense that you go ahead, sit down, play a game of Gwent with a few people. Like, rushing around day in, day out is not going to make your task any quicker. Whereas in this game, there's definitely a feeling of people are dying. The world is being taken over. We need to be running in and stopping this as soon as possible. Stopping the fish just doesn't feel right. And then the final thing that I would say I'm not a fan of regarding this game, and honestly, this just might be because I'm not far enough into it, so take it with a grain of salt. But so far, I would say that it's missing a strong villain. That there's a huge emphasis on building up your party members and the people that you're playing as, but that the force you're going up against, basically it's a bunch of ghosts and they look amazing and they have great abilities, but there's not a central charismatic figure that you're fighting up against. There's one guy that maybe is supposed to represent that, but he's been pretty typical, I'm going to take over the world, you stand here, blah, 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 blah type stuff. So thus far, I'm not really impressed with how the villains are presented from a story standpoint. But again, when I get further into the game, that might completely change. But overall, fantastic experience. Really, really having a lot of fun with this game. So glad that I gave it a shot, and I'm looking forward to playing through the rest of it and reviewing it on the channel. And that's all I have for this video. Hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please leave me a like down below, share this content, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next video. Take care.